creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
17-year-old girl suddenly passed away when she was at school. She accidentally gave birth to the baby in the toilet. She was afraid that things would be exposed, so she flushed the baby into the sewer.
What?
Unexpectedly, the baby's head was stuck in the sewer.
Oh my god.
The girl chose to run away out of fear. After a while, the crying of the baby was noticed by the school staff and the driver called the police. After the rescue workers arrived at the scene after a careful planning, they decided to cut a small hole in the pipe downstairs and put the baby on top with their hands and then took the baby upstairs. After 3 hours of hard rescue, the baby was finally rescued. Fortunately, the baby was in good health and was finally taken home by her family.
Mother called her daughter to eat downstairs and then hid behind the second floor door and ambushed the daughter who was about to go downstairs. Just when the daughter walked out of the door, mother quickly held her daughter's mouth with her hands and died. The daughter with a long face did not know why her mother would do this and only saw her mother's gesture to tell her daughter not to make a sound. Suddenly, the sound of her mother calling for dinner was heard downstairs.
What? I don't understand.
Archaeologists in Pompeii have uncovered rare, nearly life-size frescoes, giving us another look into the religious practices in the ancient city before it was destroyed.
More than 100 years after the discovery of the Villa of the Mysteries outside Pompeii, here's another great frieze about the mysteries of Dionysus.
It features a large-scale frieze that spans 3 walls of a banquet hall. This dates back between 40 and 30 BC. Pompeii was famously buried in ash by a deadly eruption on Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD.
Imagine what archaeologists will find 100 years from now. Beige walls. So many beige walls.
More of the scariest auras that I have ever seen. Nicole Kidman coming in at #1. There is just something so sinister and evil about this woman, and I've spoken about it. I just feel like something really, really evil lurks within her, and this all-encompassing dark energy around her and this red energy around her, I feel like she's doing something really sinister. And that brings me to #2, which is The Weeknd, Abel, and he makes the best music, and I know, but there's also something very sinister going on with him. And I think it has to do with his depression, or his depression may have actually led him down this path. But I'm getting a lot of negative energies, demonic influences around him, the wrong crowd that he's hanging out with, possible, how do I say this, DA, addiction, so, and suffering from the same type of vampirism as
Vampirism?
Kidman.
What is
and
that?
the third on my list is Naomi Campbell. There's something very manipulative, very Machiavellian of Naomi Campbell. She has this all over dark energy, and this purple tells me that she is somebody that knows how to play mind games. She's very manipulative. I also feel like she is very vengeful. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below and who you want me to do an aura reading on next.
Why does Nicole Kidman work more than anybody in Hollywood?
I was a 3-year-old girl when the Indians were moved from this country to Indian Territory. I have an indistinct recollection of seeing the red men as they went through the woods, for everything was woods nearly at that time. I have a distinct impression, if a 3-year-old child can have it. Nevertheless, I've been here since that time, and I've seen the march of progress all the way. At that time, we had only stagecoaches, and we only had horses and buggies, and we had lots of footback travelers. I remember all of that, and had intimate acquaintance with the people of that time. Now I've seen it come along all this way, and the airplane goes over this.
She's still surfing in Congress.
There's a study in New York City. They put up cameras and they started recording people walking. And they took the footage and they played it to convicted felons in prison. And they said to them, who would you pick as prey? They all picked the same people to prey on, just by walk. There were 3 types of walk. One walk was, I'm walking, I'm sloppy, I'm not paying attention, I'm just like in my own space. I have really no deliberate purpose in the way I'm moving my body. 2, my walk is small, I'm more timid, I'm kind of like uncomfortable. Those 2 were picked. You know who they didn't pick? The walk wasn't too sloppy big, it wasn't too small, it was right in the middle. I'm looking around, I'm present, I own my space. That person I want nothing to do with. Those group of people were not picked to be targets.
You know, I pay attention, then I make eye contact, and then I become a victim of a charity sign-up. Ooh. Oh, wow, so cute.
Has no way of explaining how Teresa of Avila's corpse refused to decompose and was investigated by doctors of that day. And then again in the 19th century was dug up again, investigated by members of the medical school of the University of Salamanca, professors, still incorrupt. And now 4 or 5 weeks ago, she's been dug up again.
Poor saints.
They're running whatever tests are available now that were not available in the late 19th century.
Right.
And one of the characteristics of Teresa's body is that she used oil. When it was flowing copiously, smelled wonderful, and performed healing miracles.
So this 82-year-old woman was filmed sadly taking a break during her Walmart job. But although her angry manager actually wanted to delete this video, safe to say things did not go his way. You see, Devin Bonagura had been working inside Walmart when this lady just suddenly caught his eye. Since Nola Carpenter just looked so exhausted and sad, Devin felt terrible. She was clearly way past the age of retirement and should never have to work again. But since it was obvious that Nola had no other choice, Devin decided to just secretly film her to raise awareness. He just so happened to have a tiny TikTok page focusing on helping others in need. But although Devin figured very few people would see it, he never expected 30 million views. He had captioned his video, "Life shouldn't be this hard," and a lot of people really related with that. So when people just told Devin to make a GoFundMe for Nola, he happily did. He learned that Nola was 82 and had been working at Walmart for 20 years but still owed $170,000 on her mortgage. But although tons of people everywhere soon began donating to her, that's when Nola's store manager just demanded Devin delete his video. His store had been getting a ton of backlash, so he told Devin to take down both the video and the fundraiser or he'd be calling the cops. But Devin just refused to not get this money to Nola. So even though he was suspended from his job, he ended up raising $180,000, finally allowing Nola to retire.
Why on earth should an 82 years old person still be working? This breaks my heart so much. My mother is 80.
Today we're going to talk about blues, aka fake perks. Like I said before, I hate when people call them perks because they're not perks. They are fentanyl pills. In real Percocets, the active ingredient is oxycodone. In fake Percocets, the active ingredient is fentanyl. 50 times stronger than morphine. When I was getting high, fake perks were $40 each. Perks are $5 each, sometimes cheaper. I had a friend that overdosed on blues. When they took him to the hospital and they did the blood work and all of that, the only thing in his system, methamphetamines, tramadol, and fentanyl. And he doesn't do any other drugs. I have another friend that overdosed on blues. It was fentanyl, methamphetamines, and like gasoline. These drugs are being cheaply produced by, I don't know who makes them. They say the cartel and stuff, but I don't know that. But I know that they're not real and they're killing people left and right. You ever seen a child, a teenager on blues? It's horrible. It's the saddest thing because they're kids, like, and they're full-blown drug addicts already. And a lot of them started because the shit that they hear in music. I knew the perk was fake, but I still ate it. When I heard that on the radio and I heard kids reciting it, like America is doing. If you sell somebody's child a blue and they die, they are going to cook you, I promise you. So be aware, if you're out here getting your money however you get it, please be aware of what you're selling. I'm not gonna lie, I had phases where I did a whole lot of different drugs, but I feel like the worst one was the blues, for sure. I didn't know that blues had a little bit of methamphetamines in them. So usually, when you take opiates, you wanna nod off, you wanna go to sleep. When I take blues, I couldn't sleep for longer than an hour. Like, I'd take one, and I'd nod off, and I'd wake right back up. And I'd be up. That's the methamphetamines kicking in. And I feel like they designed them just so you get super duper hooks. If you see any kind of perk 30, stay away from them. You can pop that and it could be the last pill you ever pop in your life.
This is sad. Hey, but I thought we were going to talk about music when you said blues. Hey, but keep spreading the knowledge, my brother. You save people's lives.
Here's why you have never seen a frozen flood before and why we saw it happen this week in Detroit.
Ooh, ooh.
eerie videos posted online show entire neighborhoods in southwest Detroit completely frozen over. Cars were trapped under thick layers of ice with some frozen solid inside and out. And in some homes, basements were buried under 5 feet of frozen floodwater. So how the hell did this happen? Because normally floods don't freeze, because for it to rain, air temperatures need to be above freezing. Otherwise, it would just be snow. And if it's warm enough to flood, then it's usually too warm for the water to freeze immediately. And luckily, Detroit didn't break any laws of nature, because these floods happened without a single drop of rain. At 2 a.m. on Monday, a 54-inch water main from the 1930s ruptured, sending torrents of water onto the streets.
Wow.
Because the temperatures were around minus 17 degrees Celsius, the water rapidly froze, leaving us with some of the strangest scenes we've seen in a while.
Imagine all the poor animals. This is crazy. You know, just because we can doesn't mean we should. Jeez. Oh. What? Those cave divers gotta be jealous.
The fast food we had in the 90s is something kids today will never experience. When Wendy's had a sunroom, I remember as a kid the beads hanging from the ceiling as you walked in. Remember that? The packaging was yellow, and I can't even describe how good those fries were, along with the burgers wrapped in foil.
Ooh.
The cheese was perfectly melted and the patty was sizzling with that amazing aroma. And don't forget the salad bar, where you could grab a huge plate of your favorite foods and then sit in the sunroom, enjoying a lazy afternoon. It was so 90s, wasn't it? Oh, and they used to have newspaper tables. I've always wondered why they got rid of those. They were actually fun. The evolution of the Wendy's logo. Following the trend, by 2026 the logo will just be a red W. Better fries, better burgers, everything supersized. And Dave Thomas delivering those deadpan ads. Those were the days. The sad part is, back then, we had everything and didn't even realize how lucky we were.
Now beef is no longer beef. Fries not potato.
Y'all, I thought it couldn't get no worse for Ariana Grande. But look at this, y'all.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Do y'all see this? What is stressing her out this much to where she getting this small, y'all? Like, do she got an underlying sickness or something? Cause she's even smaller than when I seen her on the red carpets for the premiere of Wicked. She's like 60 pounds. Like, something is extremely wrong here. This don't even look like her anymore. I don't even know who this is. Y'all, who is this? It's sad to see, bruh. At the end of the day, I don't know what's really going on behind the scenes. But something got her stressed out. If it ain't sickness, it gotta be stress. And it's probably something she know in the entertainment business that we don't. To me, it's giving MK Ultra. Cause at the end of the day, it wasn't just her appearance. It's the way she act now too. She don't even act the same. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down below in the comments. This shit crazy, dude.
She was so beautiful. What's happening? In spite of everything, please God help her. Oh man. Oh, she's on the side of the road. Oh. God bless you, sir, ma'am. Thank you for saving her. She looks like my cat, Carla. Wow. Rest in peace, soldier. Justice will be served one day.
Buy land in secret, build your house in secret, then celebrate with friends and family. Seek marriage in silence, plan in silence, then marry in front of a crowd. You see, not everything needs an audience. Jealousy is real. When you move, move quietly. When you work, work quietly. When you build, build quietly. Let them see the results, not the plans, because the loudest moves are the ones made in silence.
Ooh. They cannot destroy what they don't know.
In just 56 days, 328 people have been killed in plane crashes in these 7 separate incidents. This is every major plane crash since December 25th, when an Azerbaijan Airlines Embraer E190 crashed after being shot down, killing 38 people. On December 29th, a Jeju Air Boeing 737 crashed in South Korea, killing 179 people. On the 29th of January, an American Airlines CRJ 700 crashed after a Black Hawk helicopter collided into it in Washington, D.C., killing all 67 people on board and 3 people inside the helicopter. On the same day that happened, a Beechcraft 1900D crashed, killing 20 people in South Sudan. On January 31st, a Learjet 55 crashed shortly after takeoff in Philadelphia, killing 7 people. On the 6th of February, a Beechcraft King Air 300 crashed in the Philippines, killing all 4 people inside the plane. On the same day as that, a Cessna Grand Caravan went missing in Alaska and was later found with all 10 people dead. And just this week, on the 17th of February, a Delta Airlines plane crashed in Toronto with all passengers and crew surviving. It's been 56 days since Christmas, and in that time 328 people have sadly died in plane crashes around the world.
Worst year of the aviation history.
The priests removed her head, sealed it in a box, and hid it deep inside the Vatican. In 1742, a nun named Josephine Rosenthal became pregnant, but she swore she had never been with a man. When doctors examined her, they confirmed she was still a virgin. No one could explain it. Some thought it was a miracle. Others believed it was something much darker. Josephine didn't survive childbirth, but her daughter Maria did. And from the moment she was born, people feared her. She had both male and female traits.
What?
And the church saw her as a bad omen. Every problem, every tragedy, they blamed it on her. When she turned 33, the same age Jesus was when he died, the church decided it was time. They planned to sacrifice her, but Maria refused to let them decide her fate.
No way.
She took her own life before they could. Terrified of what she might have been, the priests removed her head, sealed it in a box, and hid it deep inside the Vatican. And for over 300 years, it has remained there. And to this day, some nuns claim to see Maria wandering the halls of the Vatican, haunting those who wronged her.
Who's ready to go on a heist in the Vatican with me?
Were quickly humbled after their booing of the U.S. national anthem during a hockey game caused the outraged U.S. players to respond by doing this to absolutely humiliate Canada. In recent weeks, Canadian fans have been booing the national anthem at nearly every sporting event involving the United States. Usually, players can ignore the booing, chalking it up to a few disrespectful fans. However, during this NHL tournament between U.S. and Canadian players, the fans crossed the line, with every Canadian in the stadium seemingly booing. This naturally angered the U.S. players, who took the ice and looked to be visibly upset, and it's important to understand that fighting is an allowed part of hockey, but the last time a fight occurred in an international game was more than 20 years ago in 2004. However, as soon as this game began, the players immediately started 3 different fights, all within the first 9 seconds. But then things got even worse for Canada, because hockey is a source of immense pride for the Canadian people, and their Prime Minister was even in attendance for this game, only for him to see Team USA decisively defeat Team Canada with a final score of 3-1.
Booing any national anthem is crazy. Wow.
Border tunnel 590 feet long and 22 feet below ground inside this abandoned Kentucky Fried Chicken. It began with a traffic stop of Yuma resident and owner of that KFC, Ivan Lopez.
Exclusive video from inside the tunnel where children's clothes and toys were found 5 feet underground. A room believed to be dug inside by children with shelves for candles and lamps, bedding, and kids' books.
I cannot imagine how many kids and how scared those babies are or were. Heartbreaking.
You heard the theory that the Trumps are time travelers?
Grab me a DeLorean.
This connects to, guess who? Nikola Tesla.
No way.
Nikola Tesla died in the New York hotel or something. And within his hotel that he had 80 plus trunks of all his patents, his designs for different technologies, all this stuff. Guess who they sent first to go and collect the stuff?
I don't know.
John G. Trump. Donald Trump's uncle.
What?
Weird.
So the theory is that he took some of these trunks.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But Tesla said that he had figured out how to bend time.
Yeah.
And so
As one does.
the theory is Donald Trump's uncle took this, created a time machine.
Oh my gosh.
And traveled back in time and like did all this stuff. But then the weird connection is there was a book that came out in 1896 and it's called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey.
Okay, so someone else named Baron Trump, or you're saying
Do you know
it
what,
was actually Baron Trump?
Do you know what the book was about?
What?
Time travel?
Baron Trump time traveling.
No!
Nikola Tesla is actually Elon. That's why he named his car Tesla. I'm just kidding. Oh. Oh my goodness.
It is our first large mass stranding of these animals in around 50 years. To try and refloat the animals directly back into that surf would be challenging, and then of course that would also present some enormous safety risks for our staff and personnel.
Fish washing up and planes falling out the sky. Something's up with the earth.
Zanzo Club video, if you haven't watched it, do not watch it. Do not watch it. Please.
Please.
It is not something you want to watch, because after you watch it, you won't be settled, you won't be able to sleep, you'll be messed up for a few weeks, especially knowing that it's real, it's not a movie, it's real. Now, I want to say this. Foreign nationals, if you are escaping certain conditions, it would be wise to not bring those conditions to the country you're escaping to. Apparently the people who perform these, and if you watch that kind of, it's professional level. That means some of these guys might actually be soldiers from other country. But it isn't wise to bring the conditions you're escaping from to the country you're escaping to. It kind of defeats the whole purpose. Just a thought. But anyway, if you haven't watched the video, do not watch it. Now, that isn't the most disturbing thing. The most disturbing thing is that the guy who actually did the videoing, who took the videos, named Pablo, says that there's 75 other videos which he possesses. And he says some of the people who were treated as such aren't even alive now. So he says there's even one which is so bad. He says, oh, like everyone was hitting those people. But anyway, ooh, guys, honestly, if you're going to leave a country, don't bring the conditions which you're escaping to the country you're escaping to. Don't turn the country you're escaping to the hell you're running from. So, yeah, this is not great. I really hope the guys who did this are brought to task. I hope justice is done. But if you watch what Pablo's saying, it leaves you even more unsettled. Anyway, it is what it is.
Now I'm desperate to watch it.
We have some really big news right now. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, just announced that he is ready to put boots on the ground and planes in the air to ensure Ukraine's lasting peace in the event of a peace agreement. Now, here's why this is significant. That would ensure, if there is a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, that if Russia were to invade again, it's no longer just attacking Ukrainian troops, it's going after British troops. And Keir Starmer has announced that he is working with coalition partners in Europe to expand the number of countries that are going to put boots on the ground in Ukraine in the event of a peace deal to enforce security guarantees for Ukraine. And if Russia were to continue to invade, they're now going to be fighting against many European countries, including the United Kingdom, not just Ukraine. Now, obviously, the United States is not going to be a part of this. Donald Trump will not put boots on the ground in Ukraine. He's made that very clear. But it is interesting to see Europe step up while America is kind of behind right now. I'll do a full breakdown of this and more on my Substack shortly, link to my bio for free. As always, follow along, stay up to date on all the news you need to know about. More to come soon.
It was never about ending the war. They just want the funds, to keep flowing.
Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis? Sleep paralysis is a condition where you wake up from your sleep, but you cannot move your body. Your mind is awake, but your body feels like it's dead. You can hear, you can see, but you cannot talk. Some people report having pressure on their chest area, like someone is stepping on top of you. Majority of people usually describe sleep paralysis as an attack from what they call demons. But that is not the case. In fact, sleep paralysis may not be as bad as you may think.
What?
Let me explain. Sleep paralysis usually happens moment before you fall asleep or immediately after you wake up. Whenever we fell asleep, your spirit usually leaves your body, and your spirit goes into the realm of the spirit. Now, what your mind does, your mind keeps your body in a state that we call atonia. Atonia is that stage where you are not supposed to move your body. You know, what connects the body and the spirit is something that we call the silver cord. The silver cord is a spiritual connection between your body and your spirit. And that silver cord is located around the heart region, and that is why majority of people usually feel pressure on their chest area. Now, whenever you are dreaming, what you see is real life, but not in the physical dimension, but in the spiritual dimension. But at that moment when you are dreaming, your body is not supposed to be moved here on the physical dimension, and that is why your mind keeps your body in that state of atonia. Now, sometimes majority of people usually wake up even before your spirit could return into your body, and now that is why you feel that sleep paralysis where you cannot move your body. But it usually happens for a few minutes, and then everything is back into normal when your spirit comes into your body. It is your mind that usually keep your body in that state, so that the silver cord should not be moved or cut. Because when you disconnect the silver cord, you disconnect the connection between the body and the spirit. Your spirit won't be able to come back into your body. Now you know.
Interesting. This is the first time I'm hearing, this explanation.
That sinkhole that ate this Illinois soccer field happened to your house. It would be more probable than what they found in these vases. These are ancient Egyptian vases made out of granite. Some engineers saw this and said, hey, those are too precise. So they measured them. They were too precise for mechanical measurements, so they laser scanned them. The laser scan wasn't precise enough, so then they CT scanned them with an X-ray. CT scans are micron precise. That is a human hair. CT scans get that precise. You can see that level of detail. Here's one of them. Green means that if it was going on an airplane, it would be considered perfect. If I gave you a pencil with a micron thin tip, a perfectly straight line would be green. You're off by 3 microns, that's yellow. These are designed using circles. The pattern is based on sacred geometry. It's called radial traversion. It just means that every curve on that vase is a harmonic ratio like music. They tested the mathematically perfect pattern on a digitally designed vase. The difference between the perfect digital one and the Egyptian one was 9 microns. They then found out that the units they were working with were based on the speed of light. I'll let Ben explain this.
This is very interesting, as it means that the base unit seems to be a simple whole number subdivision of the speed of light in a vacuum.
All of this got a harsh reaction from the archaeological community for a very good reason. What they have to say they used based on that story is now proven false with data. Now, Flint uses these alabaster vases as an example. I literally just saw these at the Egyptian Museum. But those are not even close to as precise as this machined modern vase that they compared the Egyptian one to. They date these as pre-dynastic, so using only copper. But before they built the greatest monument of all time, they were able to produce hundreds of thousands of these at aircraft grade precision. So saying that they resorted to slavery and just worked really hard makes them look worse, while saying they were more advanced immediately goes that direction. Just to make this clear, the Hindu, Egyptians, and the Mayans built their shit. No aliens, just these aliens, who told this story, took their stuff, in a time when horses were high-tech. Please go watch Ben's video for yourself. It's an hour and a half with all the evidence. And watch the counter evidence from people like Flint. What those people left will speak for itself.
So it was higher tech that we know how to make today?
Toxic toilet paper, one of the most toxic things that goes right into our bloodstream. 3 things that you need to know right here. Number 1, the chlorine used to make this so pretty and white, poison, and it creates in the chemical reaction something called dioxins. Extremely toxic, and there's one more problem. In that process, to make this paper stronger when it gets wet, they use formaldehyde. You know how toxic that is. Those 3 toxins alone make this one of the most dangerous darn things we use. The solution is now they're selling chlorine-free toilet paper, non-bleached toilet paper. That's the way you want to go. It's really not any more expensive, so it feels the same.
Okay.
At some point, you're going to have to wake up and understand that any change you want to make is on you. And all of the time, all of the energy that you're pouring into seeking validation from others, chasing their opinions and their likes, and, you know, hoping that people are going to be happy with you and you're going to win them over. All of that is a waste of your precious life.
I adore her. It's a waste and exhausting.
Prison inventions found by officers. Number 1, this handcrafted or tongue-crafted rose made out of nothing but green and red Jolly Ranchers.
What?
I know that inmate was real good with his mouth. Number 2, we got this artwork. And in most prisons, they don't allow you to draw with anything other than a blue ink pen. So how did this inmate use all this color? Well, he melts down Skittles and M&Ms.
Wow.
This is what he came up with. Number 3, I don't know if this is an invention, who invented bugs, right? But there's plenty of them in them dirty cells. And one inmate, as seen in this newspaper article, actually trained the cockroaches in this prison to deliver cigarettes that were tied onto the back of that cockroach down to paying customers in other cells on that cell block. Guess that gives a whole new meaning to let me get that roach. And lastly, here's a multi-purpose table. You can use it for dice, playing cards, putting noodles on it. I don't know, whatever you want to do with that table. What did they make it out of? Nothing but packs of ramen noodles broken off and structured into the shape of a table. And masking tape to hold it all together. And this has been some of the craziest.
That's extremely creative, man.
Head got jammed between the car door and the payment machine as she tried to leave the parking garage, and her dead body was found hours later. At first, her death was a mystery, but when they played back the security footage, they saw that she'd leaned out of the car to pick up her dropped credit card. As she did this, her foot accidentally hit the gas, and the car sped forward, slamming into the machine.
So what do we learn from this, folks? Let me know in the comment.
Did you see that video of that orb planet-like object that went up to the sun and was literally sucking something out of the sun?
What? What are you talking about?
I'll show the video. It like was by the sun, this like dark orb, right? And here's the sun, and it was just like, and then it goes, it's gone. And scientists are like, I'm not sure what that was.
Moving on.
Can't be sure.
Well,
that was weird.
But yeah, I saw it.
That's so scary.
Like, what could that be? Well, because you know how Einstein talks about like dark matter is like it's a physical thing. Space is not empty; it's something
full of matter and energy.
It's matter, and so like, is there a dark energy?
Dark energy? Really? Sucking the sun out of all this energy? I've seen close-ups of the actual sun itself. Like you could see, like no joke, like where it's like coming, like
the solar flares.
Yeah, flares or whatever.
Yeah.
You can literally see. It's so scary.
Shout out to the camera guy.
Temple of Horus at Edfu in Upper Egypt has inscribed on its walls what are called the Edfu building texts. Those words, the language that is used is not the language of 280 BC. It's not Ptolemaic Egyptian. It's Middle Kingdom Egyptian. It's language that's 2000 BC. and states quite clearly about a primeval homeland of the gods, which was an island, and then the island was swallowed up by the sea. There were survivors, and some of them came to Egypt. And there in Egypt, they built what are called primeval mounds, and those primeval mounds were to be the foundation of all future temples.
You know, can we just get AI to crack ancient languages now? And we have this, what's this? Quantum computer chips, right?
People in your life were never meant to be there. They were placed, inserted, sent, not by chance, not by fate, by something else. You think you know your friends, but do you? Ever felt drained after being around someone? Ever shared good news only to feel their energy shift? Ever sensed something watching you from behind their eyes? It's because some people are not people. They are infiltrators.
Ooh.
Spiritual agents in human form. Every ancient text warns of them. The Bible calls them wolves in sheep's clothing. The Quran warns of whisperers. Hindu texts describe asuras, demons in disguise. Gnostics spoke of archons, parasitic entities that work through people, feeding off chaos, planting doubt, bending fate. They do not attack openly, they attach quietly. You know them. The ones who drain you without speaking a word. Ones who bring problems but never solutions. The ones who push your buttons, trigger your anger, pull you into low vibrations. It's not random, it's a harvest. The elites, the unseen rulers, the architects of this simulation, they do not feed on food. They feed on energy, fear, pain, doubt. This is why they use media to manipulate emotions, to manufacture crisis, relationships to anchor you in low frequencies. And sometimes they send people, hand-picked, placed in your life to cause disruption. Signs they were sent to break you. 1, they were drawn to you too fast, they latched onto your energy like they knew you before. Because they did. 2, they subtly belittle your success. You feel like you need to dim your light around them. 3, you feel off after being with them. Not tired, drained, as if something siphoned your energy. 4, they plant doubt in your mind. They make you second guess your goals, your intuition, your path. 5, their presence comes with chaos. Things start going wrong when they're in your life. This is not coincidence, it's infiltration. This is why Jesus warned of false friends. This is why Tesla spoke of frequency, energy, vibration. This is why the elite use psychological operations to keep you distracted, doubting, depleted. They know the strongest souls are attacked the hardest. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. The moment you see the game, you can break it. How to protect yourself. Trust your gut. If someone feels off, they are. Your energy does not lie. Protect your frequency. Do not let them pull you into fear, doubt, or anger. Stay above the static. Distance is defense. Some people do not deserve access to your mind, your energy, your presence. Cut them off and watch how your life improves. Not all friends are friends. Some are assignments. Some are watchers. Some are sent to break you before you rise. Check your circle, and if you feel something watching through their eyes, run.
Yep, this explains a few people in my life.
The Menu Gate, have you heard of that?
Menu Gate?
This is weird. This man, his name is Cody, lives in Atlanta. He walked out of his apartment and noticed every single door in his hallway had a Chinese menu. 3 days later, still there. And he's like, what in the world? 3 days, everyone in my hall has not opened their door? And then 5 days, still there. So he went down to the parking garage and looked at the cars, covered in dust. And he's like, that's weird. And then he's like, okay, this is like freaking me out a little bit. Went through his whole apartment building, couldn't find a fire alarm. Finally, like, went down like one weird hallway or whatever, found one. He's like, I need to know. Pulls it. Like, there's supposed to be 800 people living in this apartment building. No one came out.
Because he had previously checked, he'd gone outside at night and there were lights on.
Yeah, he went out into his local nook where his apartment was. Every like coffee shop and place that he went to, there was always one man in there wearing a suit talking on the phone. He said these men were all saying the same thing into the phone. And he's just like, am I living in a simulation? What is this? As far as I got.
Did you know that humans would have been immortal if the Anunnaki didn't take out chromosome number 2 and fuse it together with 2 telomere caps? A few weeks ago, I woke up from my dream, and all I remember from the dream was hearing Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh over and over. I don't know if it was me saying it. I don't know who was saying it, but I kept hearing Gilgamesh, and I've never heard of that name before. So I was looking it up, and sure enough, he was half Anunnaki, half human, and he was like this 12-foot tall giant. I'm learning more about Gilgamesh now, and basically His dad was Anunnaki and was immortal, and his mom was human but wasn't immortal. And so because of this, he wanted to find out the secret to immortality so he could obtain immortality himself. We kind of went on like this quest, traveling around the world trying to find the secret of immortality. And then he meets up with Noah. Yes, the Noah that built the ark. And Noah is also half Anunnaki, half human. And so apparently Noah's like super intelligent, super wise. So Gilgamesh is asking Noah, how do you obtain immortality? And Noah tells him about a plant. And today we call this plant buckthorn. Gilgamesh goes and finds some buckthorn. He's going to eat it, but then I guess he falls asleep and a snake eats it. So then he never tries it. I'm not sure if he tries it later on. But we are basically offspring from the Anunnaki. Like they created us. And so the Anunnaki are immortal, right? But humans are not. So the question is, why is that when we are offspring of the Anunnaki? And the answer to that is that we need to stop the degradation of our telomeres. If you look at human genes, you find out that chromosome 2 was taken out and fused together, and 2 telomere caps were put on them. These telomere caps hold the biological sequence needed for replication of cells and DNA. Basically, somebody messed with our genetics. I'm guessing it was the Anunnaki. I think that's why they had karmic debt to pay, but I'm not totally positive on that. The reason that humans only live to about 120 years is because eventually those telomere caps run out of genetic material. What's crazy cool about this is Harvard did a study on this with a bunch of rats, mice. And what they did was they experimented with the mice and they gave them buckthorn. By stopping the degradation of these telomere caps, it gave the mice 3 times their normal lifespan, it blows my mind, you guys, because that could prove that what Gilgamesh and Noah were talking about way back when is actually pretty accurate. And all of this information is found in the ancient cuneiform tablets. So if you want to research this yourself and read the tablets for yourself, there's actually a really cool way you can do it now. You can go to the UCLA CDLI, and if you go to the website, you can take a Sumerian stone tablet off the virtual shelf, drop it into a translating tool, and you can just read it yourself. So that's really cool.
By the way, God Almighty created me. Hey, imagine working 40 hours a week for eternity.
Ever see the very bizarre carving where it looks like there's a guy who's sitting in a cockpit of a spaceship, like looking through some sort of an eye thing?
Yeah, they got some weird stuff. It's like
weird.
Yeah.
Where there's fire underneath the chair. Like, what is that? They're missing so much of the Mayan history because everybody's gone. You know, when the Mayans were running things, like, who could have ever thought when they had such an incredibly sophisticated society, one day you would just walk through there and there's nothing.
Today, it is officially the law of the land, at the conclusion of the congressional notification process, that 6 Mexican cartels and 2 transnational gangs, Tren de Aragua, or TDA, and MS-13, so 8 organizations in total, are now formally designated as foreign terrorist organizations, which means that every single member of those organizations who operates on U.S. soil is now, as a legal matter, a terrorist, and they will be treated as terrorists. And there will be a whole of government effort to remove these terrorists from our soil and to degrade their ability to threaten or undermine any American security or sovereignty interests.
There you go.
Border crossings, since the day he took office, are down 95%. I think it's almost impossible to even describe the scale and scope of that achievement. The criminals are going home. The border is sealed shut. America is safe, sovereign, proud, and free. We are a nation that everyone in the world understands all across this planet. You do not come here illegally. You will not get in. You will go to jail. You will go home. You will not succeed. This is the biggest and most successful change in any area of law enforcement that this nation has ever seen, and he did it in under 1 month.
There you go. Promises made, promises kept.
Did you know what Nestle's doing? Oh my gosh, I'm getting hot about it just thinking. Nestle lobbies for mothers to have unpaid leave.
Wow.
Because They own formula.
That's
What?
interesting.
That's a bomb.
Go get them, ladies.
Also, if you look into just how they create chocolate, it is
Yeah.
horrific.
And did you hear the owner said that water is not a humanitarian right?
What?
Yep.
No way.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You don't have a right to water, you have to purchase water.
I think they purchased something. It was somewhere in Asia, maybe India or something. They purchased the land and the right to this village's water. They're using it for their Nestle water. Now the village can't get their own water. They get the runoff stuff that has a bunch of chemicals.
Oh my
all this bad
God.
stuff in it.
That's terrible.
That's
dude.
horrible.
They took away their water.
No, they're stinking evil.
We gotta
They
do a
also
deep
are like
dive in
killing all the orangutans in the rainforest because of palm oil.
What's palm oil?
Specifically, men should not be doing like alternate oils. You should be doing like tallows and olive oil, like a rich, good, true olive oil.
You look like a doctor that or
One of those hip
holistic
doctors?
Yeah.
I'm a doctor, but I'm a cool doctor.
Boycott Nestle.
Have you guys ever heard of Death Mountain in North Russia?
Death Mountain?
This is probably one of the craziest connections, connecting a lot of stuff that we've talked about on the podcast. It's a very tall mountain, like one of the tallest mountains in the region. A very spiritual place. The ancient tribesmen, the Sami tribes, they say that it's where these giants used to live.
Of course.
And there's this giant flood. And these evil giants, who they say came from the fallen gods, went to this mountain to escape the flood. Some of them went into the earth. They believe that there's the spirits of these evil giants still roam on this mountain today. There are 16,000 megalithic boulders that are bouncing on smaller rocks. They believe that these boulders were placed by the giants, and they act as a portal to another realm. So they say that these giants are actually very hard to kill because they could go to these portals and escape into the spiritual realm.
Dude, is that what Bigfoot is? Just a hairy giant?
Dude, it makes you think.
Interesting.
The scary part isn't that this is real, which is very real. The first fleshly android being powered by artificial intelligence.
Wow.
The scary part is this. What we see now, they have had for a very, very long time. And you know how they say that 50% of the people living on this earth don't have an internal monologue, like they're NPCs?
That is just
Do y'all
creepy,
really
man.
think that they aren't using these things today? I don't think people understand that we're living in a world where half the things that we see aren't real, at least the way that we think they're real. And speaking of this artificial intelligence, where did they get this intelligence from? This behind me is not the moon, it's the sun. You remember in April when we had that crazy eclipse? That was weird for so many reasons, like, you know, the positioning of the sun and the moon. Well, right around that time frame is when we had this drastic change in artificial intelligence and AGI. And we know we had AI before that, but when it happened, it was a dramatic shift. Well, did you know that there's a lot of people that say that when that whole thing happened, there was a massive deal that transpired. And when that happened, we were given technology that we cannot control. So I guess my main question is, what exactly will this be used for? And if already, which I believe it is, what is it being used for right now?
You know, crazy how there's going to be a blood moon and solar eclipse in the same month of March?
The most bizarre obsessions of medieval royalty will shock you. Have you ever imagined a queen walking naked in public and refusing to take a bath? Well, that actually happened.
No
Louisa
way.
Isabel, Queen of Spain, was so eccentric that she lived filthy and foul-smelling. And she didn't even have a name until her wedding day. And there's more.
Ew.
King Philip V of Spain suffered from such severe mental disorders that he believed he was a frog. Yes, he thought the sun was chasing him and that he needed more arms and legs. As for King Louis XIV, the famous Sun King, he only took 2 baths in his lifetime. To mask his unbearable odor, he changed clothes multiple times a day, but it didn't help. Oh, and he had only 1 tooth and a hole in the roof of his mouth, which made his breath even worse. And what about Joanna the Mad? So obsessed with her husband, she once gave birth in a bathroom just so she wouldn't have to let him go to a ball alone.
I don't believe this. Do you?
I don't want to go way down the alien abduction rabbit hole here, but the Greys, and I'm going to tell you this, matter-of-factly, the Greys are real. 100% real.
I mean, thousands of people have seen them.
Yes, many, many people have encountered them. I have friends who have encountered the Greys. One of my friends actually reached out and strangled one until she was deactivated.
Oh my gosh.
Gray aliens are real. Now, what exactly they are, there's a lot of speculation out there. Most of what we know about gray aliens comes from the alien abduction material. This is not fiction. That material there's a body of evidence that has every kind of evidence that you could prove a case in court with. It's got physical evidence, anecdotal evidence, there's all kinds of proof associated with alien abduction that is undeniable. So gray aliens are real, and there's a lot we could say about that. By the way, David Grush said as much in his testimony, that biologicals have been recovered, non-human biologicals. We're talking about gray aliens here. That's the primary group, I think, that's operating in our airspace. It's not the only group. And there's several groups. It's a very serious topic, and the research, the old school ufological research is very, very good.
They're demons.
Guy Pearce, I've now read the comments that you made about me, and while I would have preferred...
So Kevin Spacey's back in the media trying to act like he never did anything wrong. So let me just remind you of a few of the things that he's accused of doing. Back in 2017, an actor named Anthony Rapp testified that at a party in 1986, Kevin Spacey, who at the time was 27 years old, made a move on him when he was just 14. And when those allegations dropped, so many more followed. There were allegations from a Boston anchorwoman named Heather Unruh, who claimed that Kevin Spacey sexually assaulted her own son. Then there was filmmaker Tony Montana, who said that he was left with PTSD for 6 months after Kevin Spacey unexpectedly and without consent grabbed his crotch. There's also actor Robert Cavazos, who came forward and said that he had been touched by Kevin Spacey. And Robert also stated that all the young men that surrounded Spacey knew that at some point they'd probably be harassed by him. Then he was accused of sexual misconduct by 8 different staff members of the show House of Cards he worked on, and at this point the floodgates really opened. Police departments across the world, from the United Kingdom to Los Angeles, California, started looking into past reports about Kevin Spacey. In LA, he was investigated for a sexual assault that allegedly happened in 1992. Then another lawsuit was filed that he assaulted a masseuse at his home in 2016, and I could go on and on and on. But Kevin's had some good luck. A number of the charges against him have been dropped. People have withdrawn their lawsuits, and a number of the people who have come forward to speak about him have died mysterious and sudden deaths. But just because Kevin Spacey has never been actually convicted of one of these crimes, that doesn't mean that he's not guilty of them. This whole thing essentially has boiled down to his word versus theirs. And I'm the type of person that always believes victims, especially when you work like me in exposing pedophile rings and these pedophile predators. You always start out believing the victims and then work backwards. And if there wasn't any truth to any of these allegations, why would they have been brought up in the very first place? I mean, there's also the fact that you have to bring up here that Kevin Spacey was known to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He's tried to go on shows and deny it, but he's on the flight logs. So yeah, it's horrible because Kevin Spacey is indeed a great actor and he's been in some of my favorite films. But it absolutely sickens me to see people defending him when there is so much evidence of the things that have happened. And we just can't let people like this fool us into thinking that they're completely innocent. I just can't believe that those are some of the comments that I've been reading about Kevin Spacey when it's very, very clear that this guy is a pretty bad dude. And that's saying it very, very lightly.
I think he's guilty. And those who think he isn't, what makes you think that, he's innocent? Oh, by the way, I like him in LA Confidential.
China just made fake diamonds that can destroy real ones. They're 40% harder. Scientists at Jilin University have created something that's going to shake the diamond industry to its core. These aren't just any fake diamonds, they're super diamonds that are way stronger than anything we've seen before. These new diamonds are so tough, they can crush and scratch natural diamonds like they're nothing. And while regular diamonds start to break down in extreme heat, these super diamonds can handle much hotter temperatures, almost twice as hot. How did they do it? They heated compressed graphite until it formed hexagonal diamonds, the same rare structure found in meteorite crash sites like the Canyon Diablo in Arizona. This isn't just about jewelry. These super hard diamonds could revolutionize drilling, manufacturing, and yes, even engagement rings. The diamond industry's monopoly might be coming to an end, and it's all thanks to this Chinese breakthrough. Think natural diamonds are forever, think again.
It's not fake, it's real. It's just not a natural ones, just man-made ones.
It happened again, y'all. Another deadly plane crash. I can't say I'm surprised this happened again. Let's take a look at this pattern. January 29th, Washington, D.C. January 31st, Pennsylvania. February 5th, Washington. February 6th, Alaska. February 10th, Arizona. February 12th, California. February 16th, Georgia. February 17th, Toronto. As I told y'all on my recent video, things like this is becoming normal. I said, if you want to get on the plane, just pray, because you never know. These things are becoming normal right now. So this happened when two small airplanes collided mid-air, crashing in Marana Regional Airport. From what the report said, one airplane that collided managed to still make it to the ground and land, and the other one crash landed and burned into flames. So the crazy part is, this airport didn't have a control tower. So upon arriving or taking off, the pilots got to communicate with each other just so they can be in the clear. And I'm guessing that's what happened here. They didn't communicate. Like I said, something weird is going on. Do y'all think this is just bad luck or something deeper is going on?
Something
Let
deeper.
me know down below.
I think I finally figured out one of the largest public housing scams in California. So LA County has about 150,000 subsidized housing units, but 13% of these are unoccupied and available for rent. And with 75,000 homeless people, you would expect that subsidized housing vacancy rate to be extremely low. There are people, their whole job is to get homeless people into these units, and from what I've been told, they can't. Now here is a rent-restricted unit renting in LA for $2,200 a month that is listed by this real estate company called Miller and Desatnik. You can see right here, this building is an LA City affordable housing site. And property owners get a bunch of incentives for participating in these low-income housing programs like tax credits and grants and a bunch of other goodies. But here's the scam. To apply to this unit that I just showed you, there is a non-refundable $45 application fee that all applicants must pay. So what I've been told that they do is they just collect this $45 application fee over and over again without accepting any of the applicants.
No
I got a
way.
tip from a housing specialist for homeless veterans about this particular company, Miller and Desatnik, and they said they've never been able to get anybody in there. And here's how the math would work. This unit is renting for $2,200 a month. But let's say they're getting 5 applicants a day. That's $45 per applicant. Let's say there's 28 business days per month. Multiply that by 45. That would be $6,300 a month they would be making. That's almost 3 times the amount that they would collect if they were to have just rented this unit out. And based on the property history, it looks like this might be happening. Because look, they listed it for rent in May of 2024. Then they removed it in July, listed it again in August, then did a price change, another price change, another price change, and now this unit's been just sitting there for almost a whole year. Like, why go through the process of renting a unit out when you could just collect the application fee, keep it empty, while also collecting tax incentives and grants from the government? Sounds like a pretty good deal. So this 13% vacancy rate, I think, is deliberate and criminal in my opinion. Anyway, one of the big projects that I have going on this year is to dive into all these homelessness industrial complex scams, so definitely feel free to follow me for more.
Yep. Charging an application fee is also criminal.
They also talk about an alien investigation. This is the craziest story. This thing, Operation Plate, this village in Brazil, were just terrorized by UFOs for months to where people were actually attacked. I think a couple of people actually died. There's just so many reports of, like, at night in the ocean, there would be hundreds of different shaped UFOs just going. It was so secretive, Operation Plate, that no one knew about it until the dictatorship got dissolved and the CIA came down and collected all of the information on Operation Plate and brought it back to him. But it's like the most well-documented, biggest encounter, so many eyewitnesses, and we still don't know everything about it because the CIA now has it, and it's still, I think, technically classified.
Yeah, interesting.
It's crazy though.
Flying Plate.
Yeah.
If I was government in Brazil, I would just have someone open up a really nice restaurant called the Flying Plate.
Yeah.
So whenever you Google Flying Plate Brazil, that's the first thing that will pop up.
But it reminds me of Tim Alberino's
the face
peelers.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, Peru.
With the laser
Dude, it's the same
cutting.
thing.
It was a government project. That's why, they were all over it.
If the pin that you use to get into your phone or your card is in this video, buddy, you're cooked. This company called Have I Been Pwned just did a scan of the dark web, and they created a list of the 50 most common pin codes and data leaks. So when hackers try a brute force attack, these are the ones they try first. Starting off hot, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 1, 1, 1, then 0, 0, 0, 0. Honestly, if this is you deserve to get hacked. Next we have 1, 3, 4, 2, kind of a sleeper, and then 1, 2, 1, 2 out of nowhere. I expected 2, 2, 2, 2, expected 4, 4, 4, 4, 1, 1, 2, 2, kind of weird, and 1986 out of nowhere. That's got to be a generational thing for sure. Yep. Then we got 2020, also weird, and from there on it gets pretty predictable. But yeah, if your pin code or passcode is on this list, I'd recommend changing it.
Thankfully, 3575 isn't on there. Woo!
Mexican cartels and Chinese criminal networks using Canadian ports to smuggle an endangered fish known as the cocaine of the sea, which is used to produce the deadly drug fentanyl.
A criminal network involving Chinese and Mexican nationals called the Dragon Cartel, specializing in the trafficking of totoaba fish in exchange for chemical precursors needed to produce fentanyl in Mexico. Now, totoaba is a unique fish that is an endangered species in the Gulf of California. Cartels in Mexico discovered that there is a demand in the black market in Asia for totoaba for its bladder. Now, according to Canadian officials, 1 kilogram of totoaba bladder is worth $80,000 on the black market. It is even nicknamed the cocaine of the sea. Authorities are currently facing an uphill battle cracking down on the totoaba trade because of the huge amount of cargo passing through the ports of Vancouver, combined with the difficulty of identifying illegally traded bladders amid other legal fish products.
5 vehicles to absolutely never buy. Number 1, any model of the Jeep Renegade. Ask anyone, and this car is the furthest from a Jeep you could possibly think of. Coming standard with a Fiat 4-banger engine that had so many issues, oil leaks, all sorts of failures. Not to mention Stellantis's poor build quality on top of all the drivetrain issues. If you're looking for an economical Jeep, I recommend looking outside of the Jeep brand as a whole, because most of their vehicles are not going to be economical, and this one is not a great alternative. Number 2, the older generation Audi S4s that came with a V8 engine. Although these were cool cars and they sure sounded good when you put an exhaust on them, they had major timing chain issues. And not only was it any ordinary timing chain, Audi designed the timing chains on the backside of the engine towards the vehicle's firewall. So if yours failed, you had to have the whole engine removed to repair and replace those timing chain guides and tensioners, and this was a $10,000 job from a shop. So if you do buy one of these, make sure that job has already been done on the vehicle, because you're going to end up spending the same amount you paid for it just to have the timing chain repaired. Number 3, the Land Rover Discovery Sport. Not only is it a Land Rover, which makes it ultra prone to reliability issues, but it had an Ingenium 4-cylinder engine, which were just complete trash. And believe it or not, I think they're still making these things, but just don't buy them. If you're going to buy a Land Rover Discovery, get the regular one with the supercharged V6 or the inline 6. This is almost guaranteed to have a check engine light before you leave the dealership lot. They had all sorts of issues, from electronics to oil leaks to blown turbos to all sorts of stuff. The engines on these were trash, very much underpowered, and these cars don't have a lot of room in them either. Number 4, the BMW M5 with the V10 engine. These were some really cool cars when they first came out, and they made a lot of power, I think over 500 to the wheel, and they sounded amazing with an exhaust on them. The only problem were they were very complicated engines. They were terrible with reliability. They had all sorts of issues. I mean, you would be chasing down an issue and another one would pop up. It was just like never-ending engine problems with this car. On top of that, the automatic transmission, or dual clutch transmission they used in these, was a specially designed like F1 style transmission, and they were super fragile, weak, couldn't handle a lot of power, and they would break all the time. Similar to the Audi S4 I mentioned earlier, by the time you bought the car and spent the money, you're going to pay just as much in repairs as you did purchasing the vehicle in the first place. So make sure if you do buy one, you check to make sure all the maintenance has been done already so you aren't liable for it. Number 5. The Maserati Ghibli, and more specifically the SQ4 model, which was the higher performance model. Based off the Stellantis or Chrysler products, they had a twin-turbo V6 from Maserati or Chrysler, and they were just not great with reliability. Not to mention the depreciation on Maserati is absolutely awful, so you could get a cheap one, but then you're going to spend thousands of dollars in repairs down the road. You're not going to get 100,000 miles of reliability out of one of these things. Not to mention there are so many better offerings in this segment when it comes to sports sedans other than a Chrysler parts bin Maserati. Sure, the SQ4 edition was pretty cool. They made like 400 to the wheel or something around there, so they were pretty quick cars. But like I said, there are better offerings than a Maserati Ghibli, although they are cheap.
Just buy Toyota or Honda.
These two twisted friends kidnapped a woman, made her eat poo and tortured her whilst high on coke. Elisha Robinson and Jodie Colvin kidnapped the 21-year-old vulnerable woman who had learning difficulties and abused her for hours. The group targeted the victim over her friendship with a 15-year-old. She had arranged to meet the friend at a cinema in Norwich in the evening, but she was approached by Elisha Robinson and Jodie Colvin, along with another 16-year-old boy who cannot be named due to his age. They convinced her to get into a car, and she was driven to Jodie Colvin's home in Mulbarton, near Norwich. They then held her hostage for almost 7 hours as they abused and assaulted her. The attack was filmed on their mobile phones. She was repeatedly assaulted, forced to eat poo, and had bleach and boiling water poured over her. Both women took turns forcing a beer bottle inside the victim, and although 16-year-old boy hadn't actively harmed the victim himself, he encouraged the women to cause as much pain as possible. The women were both high on coke and encouraged each other in texts to inflict increasingly extreme acts on the victim. The pair exchanged messages in which they discussed knocking her teeth out and tying her to a chair and beating her. Other messages exchanged between them included one saying it would be fun to release her and then track her down and beat her further. They searched the internet for ways to kill her and dispose of her body. Jodie Colvin and Elisha Robinson eventually marched her out of the house with a baseball bat at 5:30 a.m. the next morning and threatened they would kill her mother, brother, and dog if she reported the attack. The victim raised the alarm at a nearby house and the homeowners called police. All 3 attackers were arrested and charged with false imprisonment, grievous bodily harm, assault, and numerous sexual offenses. All 3 were found guilty of the charges. In court, Jodie Colvin was jailed for 12 years and 9 months. Elisha Robinson was also jailed for 12 years and 9 months. The 16-year-old boy was jailed for 6 years. Follow the page and leave a comment on any other criminal cases you'd like to see on the channel.
12 years, that's it? I mean, what did the woman even do? Was this just random attack on her, or did they know her? But regardless, it's absolutely horrific. Poor woman.
They are not aliens?
No. What we call aliens are simply the civilizations living beyond the ice wall of Antarctica. It's not some distant galaxy or a sci-fi fantasy. It's Earth, right here, hidden in plain sight, but beyond what we're allowed to see. These advanced civilizations have technology so beyond our understanding that when their ships soar through the skies, we mistake them for extraterrestrial crafts. But they're not from space. They're from regions on this planet we've been kept from exploring. Why the lie? The oligarchs, the ones pulling the strings, want to keep us in fear of the unknown. Aliens, outer space, it's all a smokescreen. They don't want us asking questions about what's really out there. These civilizations are light years ahead of us in tech and knowledge. That's why the narrative is controlled. They don't want you to even imagine the idea that there's more to Earth than you've been told. But trust me, it's not aliens coming for us. It's advanced beings from right here, beyond the icy borders we're forbidden to cross.
This is just a theory, not a fact.
We talk too much. Let all go step beyond the ice wall.
That we've done thus far, Grok 3 is outperforming anything that's been released that we're aware of. So that's a good sign. Yeah, it's in fact at times I think Grok 3 is kind of scary smart. You're like, wow, this thing's smart. It's kind of scary. Grok 3 is scary. It's like, wow, this thing's, it comes up with solutions that you didn't even think were like you wouldn't even anticipate, not obvious solutions. Even without fine tuning, Grok 3, the base model, is better than Grok 2. So we're really in the final stages of polishing Grok 3. Probably it gets released in about a week or two. So pretty soon.
Tonight I'm going to tell you the ghost story of Daniel Robitaille. Now this is one of those ghost stories where the dead don't stay dead, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now the image shown behind me is a photograph of a young Daniel, and Daniel by all accounts lived an exceptionally charmed life. He grew up the son of a previously enslaved couple that made their fortune creating technology that was used in the mass production of shoes, and as a result, he got to enjoy all of the trappings of the wealth that came with it. He had all the best clothes, went to all the best schools, and mingled with high society on a regular basis. And by all accounts, he was generally well liked. But even more, there was something special about Daniel that attracted people from all over, and that was his prodigious art talents. Daniel was a masterful painter and was able to capture the wealth of the people around him, something that was a bit hard to find those days. And as a result of this prodigious talent, Daniel was receiving calls from all of the 1%. Every single person wanted Daniel to capture their likeness and of course capture and document their wealth. And Daniel was able to make a really good living making his art. He grew a name away from his parents and was able to stand alone in his own right, and this made him quite popular. Even better for Daniel was that a lot of his subjects ended up being repeat customers, and they would call him and commission him to paint different members of their families. And this, sadly, is where Daniel's story takes a sharp left. So one fateful day, one of Daniel's repeat customers commissions him to make a painting of his daughter, Caroline. Now, in some stories, her name is actually Caroline. In other tellings of the tale, she doesn't have a name at all. But for this, we'll go with Caroline. And of course, Daniel agrees. One, because the sum of money is quite substantial. And two, because Caroline is smoking, like she's hot. And so he happily accepts the job. But this is where things tend to unfold even more, because as he's painting Caroline, he begins to fall in love with her. And what's worse is that she begins to fall in love with him too. It's very Jack and Rose. It's not supposed to happen, despite the fact that Daniel is rich and wealthy and comes from a good family on his own. Society says, black man, white woman, absolutely not. But you can't stop love, and the two of them went on to have relations, resulting in an unplanned pregnancy. Now, of course, this is still the 1800s, late 1800s, but the 1800s nonetheless. And this is a problem because in addition to asking Daniel to paint his daughter's picture, one of the explicit instructions in doing so was to capture her virginal essence, to make her appear very pure. Ideally, not only would this help her on the marriage market, but for a man to have good-looking kids, it definitely helps his social prospects as well, especially if he plans on social climbing through his children. So for him, he had multiple intentions with this painting. One, to capture his wealth. Two, to capture his daughter's beauty and her virginal essence. And three, to maybe subtly flex on other wealthy men of the time and possibly use her to make a business agreement in the form of marriage. But that does not work well when your daughter is knocked up by the black painter you hired to capture her virginal essence. I will say that again. Her virginal essence doesn't look good, does it, when she's pregnant? Now, of course, her father couldn't let that slide. So what did he do? He plotted revenge. Now, of course, as a man of means, he would never bother with getting his own hands dirty. So what he did was hire a gang to do the dirty work for him. Now, I forgot to mention that this story takes place around Chicago during the 1890s. I know I mentioned the year, but I didn't mention the location. So all of these events are taking place in Illinois. So back to the story. Now, the gang this man hired to take care of Daniel definitely took some creative liberties in how they dealt with him. So the first thing the gang did to poor Daniel was make him flee, and they chased him all night until he could run no more. The second thing they did to poor Daniel was cut off his right hand, and this was deliberate. This was intended to punish the artist who used that hand to create. The third thing they did to poor Daniel was find an atrium nearby. Now, this atrium was filled with trees, and these trees were filled with bees who had their hives there. This gang took those hives and they brought it over to Daniel, and they slathered them with the honey, and they let those angry bees sting him. Now, the fourth thing they did to Daniel was crudely fasten a hook to the hand they just cut off. And the fifth and final thing they did to poor Daniel was burn him alive. And they all stood around and watched. Now, the sixth and final thing they did to poor Daniel was take his ashes after he had been burned alive and sprinkled them throughout a place called Cabrini Green. After that, they went about their merry business, were never seen or heard from again. Now that's not where the story ends. You see, I promised you a ghost story. So fast forward a couple of years, and it's the early 1900s. People are starting to report a man walking around with a hook for a hand, and every time somebody reports this man, there are bodies that follow with it. It's as though this man was killing these people. Even more so, it's said that you can conjure this man. This man has no name that they know of, but it's said that if you stand in a mirror, repeat the name Candyman 5 times, that he will appear behind you, hook hand and all, and will probably unalive you. So I would probably avoid doing that if I can, but some people are risk takers. I'm not. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this video in the comments, and if you caught the movie reference I was making this entire video, and let me know what you want to see next.
I had no idea Candyman was based on true events. Do you?